So despite the past week being pretty slow for video game news, we actually had some interesting news come out this morning on Monday. It turns out that Capcom randomly confirmed that the original Devil May Cry, the classic early 2000s PlayStation 2 version of the first game, will be coming to the Nintendo Switch this summer. So you can see the tweet right here where Capcom, or I should say it's really the Devil May Cry official Twitter, actually confirmed that this game is going to be coming to the Switch, and all they say is that it's coming this summer. So we don't have a lot of specifics on the game, such as what version, I should say, of this game they're going to be bringing, as well as what the actual date is, just this summer. And it's interesting because this summer for the Nintendo Switch actually is fairly stacked. There seems to be a lot of games that Nintendo is bringing over to the console, and other third parties are bringing over. And it's really great to see because, honestly, summer is always an untapped market for the video game industry, and it seems like Nintendo and the Switch are one of the first kind of companies and consoles to really realize that, and they're starting to give us a lot of stuff to play. So I have some mixed feelings on this whole Nintendo Switch port of the original Devil May Cry, but overall, I mean, it's certainly good news. I mean, any game coming to the Switch is good news. Any port of a classic and popular game is good news, and that's definitely what the original Devil May Cry is. I think my mixed opinions just simply come from the fact that I don't know that I myself am super excited to play this exact older game. I mean, I'm certainly a bit of a fan of Devil May Cry, but I'm not a huge fan. I've dabbled in some of the games in the past, including this game, the original game that they're bringing over to the Switch. And I've enjoyed some of my time with the series. The only games I've really played to completion are the DMC reboot from a few years ago on the 6th gen, the one where they changed Dante and everyone hated it, and I actually really, really liked that game. And then, of course, DMC 5 came out a couple of months ago, and I've played and completed that, and I also really, really enjoyed it. It wasn't perfect, and there were some elements that were actually really frustrating to me, but overall, the whole package was a ton of fun, and so I did really enjoy that game. Those are the only two I've played all the way through, and so it's not like I'm, over the moon for this exact game to be coming to the Switch. Yes, I do appreciate ports of classic games coming to newer consoles. I mean, I even was just tweeting yesterday about how much I want ports of the original Silent Hill games to come over to the newer consoles. Devil May Cry just is one of those series that, it should speak to me more than it does, and I should have enjoyed it more than I have playing the series. And so, because I'm just not head over heels, it's not like I'm necessarily diving into this right away as soon as it launches. But I'm also not sold on it either. I mean, I'm sitting here thinking more and more about it, and it's like, this might be pretty cool. It might be fun to kind of relive this game, and I do love that era of gaming, even though it's clunky and awkward. I still do have, like, a nostalgic appreciation of that early 2000s era, so I might even just honestly buy and play it for that one reason. Although, if you think about it, there's another element that we still don't quite know or understand about this Devil May Cry release on the Switch, and that is, what version of the game are they bringing over? I mean, they haven't really said, like I said, any details about this, so this could be just a straight, port of the old school SD normal looking game. It could be a slight sort of HD kind of polish, because I think that they did release a version of that, maybe digitally, on the PS4 and Xbox One a couple of years ago. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that happened. Or they might be doing like a serious HD remaster treatment to it. And depending on what they do, I might actually be pretty interested in that idea. I know that they brought the original Onimusha over to the Switch a few months ago, and I think that they did a bit of a cleanup of that game as well, and I heard that it was really good. Some people that I know actually played and really enjoyed that kind of re-release or that port of that game on the Switch. And so if they do something semi-significant to the original Devil May Cry and they do polish it up a little bit or maybe add some bells and whistles, in that situation, I probably would absolutely dive into this game and pick it up on release day. Because like I said, I dabbled in this game back in the day, and I found it to be a little bit overrated and clunky when I first played it. And I mean, I'm talking about, back in the 6th gen era. I mean, I played it close to when it was relevant. I'm not talking about a few years ago. And when I played it way back then, I was like, yeah, this game is a little bit overhyped. It didn't really work for me or speak to me in that way. But again, if they bring it over today, I get it on my, portable Nintendo Switch, and if they do an HD treatment and add some sort of new features or something to kind of modernize it, I really would have no reason to say no. And, price is obviously something to consider here as well. We don't know if they're going to do something crazy like charge full price, or if they're making it just like a modest port with not a lot of changes or enhancements, Would they hopefully sell it for something like 30 or 40 bucks? I would think they would, but you never really know. So that's something we need to wait to see as well. Now, I do, of course, find this funny for another reason, because there's been a conversation over the past 3 or 4 months in the community from people who have been demanding Devil May Cry 5 get ported to the Nintendo Switch, and also demanding word or confirmation about Dante the character possibly coming to Super Smash Bros. And both of those conversations, Devil May Cry as a franchise coming to the Switch, Dante showing up in Super Smash Bros., both of those conversations were kind of surrounding this controversy of Capcom, or somebody from Capcom, or maybe one of the developers for Devil May Cry. I'm not 100% sure who, but one of those people representing those companies, they actually said that, oh, you basically need to just start letting us know that you want these things, and you need to port beg. I mean, it really started a whole port begging conversation a couple months ago. Not the first time we've seen port begging conversations start around the Nintendo Switch, and you get a lot of heated conversation and debate. You get a lot of people fighting about it. People have very strong opinions on either side of the fence on the whole concept of port begging, on if it's good or bad, or should be acceptable or should not be acceptable. It's crazy. And I mean, I have some opinions on it, but I'm not so, staunchly on one side or another of this line in the sand that I really care enough to get too deeply into it. But I just find it funny that, somebody either from the Devil May Cry team or from Capcom recently said you basically got to port beg for all this, Devil May Cry stuff on your Switch. And here we are, and there's a Devil May Cry game coming to the Switch. And there's no way that they didn't already know that 3 months ago. 3 months ago, they knew that they were planning on releasing Devil May Cry on the Switch. I mean, we know that. And so I find it interesting that they kind of started that sort of shitstorm of conversation and fighting on the internet when they had, a semi-solution or some interesting news to give to people. And I'm not saying that they should have confirmed this Devil May Cry port back then, but they could have at least kept their mouth shut maybe and just not even talked to the community about it and just waited until this information came out, and probably would have calmed a lot of people down. I mean, sure, I would like to see Dante come to Super Smash Bros. I think that he makes sense for a third-party character. I think people would be very excited. He would be a very successful character to bring over to the series, and I even think that there is still a chance that he's planning on coming. So it'll be interesting to see if that's what happens, but I just kind of find it ironic and hilarious that whole kind of hubbub went down a couple of months ago, and here we are, and we have an actual Devil May Cry game coming to the Switch. So now we start to wonder, are there any other games that Capcom might be looking at bringing over to the Switch? They've ported Resident Evil Revelations 1 and 2. They've ported Onimusha. They're bringing over Devil May Cry. We know that they're getting ready to release some overpriced ports of some of the classic Resident Evil games. And so they're definitely doing a lot in the old game space. But they haven't brought many new games. I mean, heck, one of the few new games they brought over was just that Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection, which is just a collection of a bunch of old games, and some of their Mega Man collections. I can't think of, there's probably something I'm brain farting, but I can't think off the top of my head of any actual new, current, modern, brand new 2018, 2019 game that they've released on the Switch yet. I mean, there probably is something, but I don't want to Google it. I just kind of want to talk to you guys naturally here and as thoughts come off of the top of my head. But they haven't really done that. They've just been bringing old games. And so what are they going to do next? I've said this before. I think that they really missed an opportunity to bring the Resident Evil 2 remake over to the Switch. And as I've said before, I firmly believe that they could make that game run on the Nintendo Switch. I really do believe that. Yes, it's a very pretty game, and we know that it's pushing a lot of visual power. But it's like, okay, come on. I know the Switch is underpowered, but it's not that underpowered. We've seen it play some amazing games. It's playing Doom, it's playing Wolfenstein, it's playing Mortal Kombat 11. They could make a version of Resident Evil 2, the remake, work on the Switch, and I think that would have been very, very smart. Not to mention an actual release of Resident Evil 7, not this weird Japan-only streaming rental thing. Like, that's the dumbest thing ever. Give us the real game, and I think that Resident Evil 7 would also be a big hit on the Nintendo Switch. So, and I mean, hey, I would even accept some other great ports of some older Capcom games. It's not like I really hate that idea. I just would like to see a balance of, classic ports and some new games. Anywho, really not that much else to say on this, I don't think. Kind of one of the shorter videos coming from me that you guys might be used to. But I haven't had a reason to talk about current news in a while, and I've also been really sick, and I'm finally getting over that, and I thought that this would be fun to just kind of chat with you guys about. for a couple of minutes because it is interesting and it is an exciting development. So overall, I want to know what you guys think. Are you excited about this? Are you not excited about it? Do you have some of the reservations I brought up, or are you mostly just, you're in 100% and you can't wait for this? Personally, I'm getting more and more excited as I talk about it and think about it, but I do want to wait to see what are they doing to this game, are they changing or enhancing it, and what is the price? These are the things that I want to know before I officially dive in. But it could also be a good sign of great things to come as well. So, yeah, I think that's going to be it. So tell me what you guys think about this. Thanks, of course, as always, for tuning in. This is Rob of Ro2R Review, and I'll catch you guys next time on another video.